Hi there, my young scientists. I am so excited to see you. We are almost 2 weeks away from school starting, and we are so excited to be able to see you. And once you get in the buildings, please be sure to give me a quick hello so that I'm able to say hi to you and talk more about your experiments and the things that you've done here over the summer. I'm so proud of you for sticking through it and working through our science experiments, and I hope that you want to continue to do this in the future. So for today, we're going to do one that involves giving yourself a nice sweet treat, but it is going to take a little bit of patience. So as you notice, you're in my kitchen, and so what we're going to do is we're going to create a super saturated solution, and with a little bit of patience, a little bit of time, you're going to be able to see that it's going to turn into a sweet treat just for you. So here's what you're going to need to do. You're going to need a jar of some sort, preferably one that's clear so that you can see through. I'm using a simple mason jar, but it doesn't have to be clear, but you definitely want it to be a jar of some sort, not necessarily a plastic cup. And for this experiment, you're going to need your string that we gave you. If you want it colored, you can use your food coloring that we provided to you. Your pencil will be used for this one, and one paper clip or one bead if you want to use a bead. And so what we're going to first do is we're going to measure our string. You have a very lengthy string here, and you probably don't need the whole thing. But what we're going to do is we're going to measure our string, and we're going to have it go in the cup, and it's going to be just almost touching. And that's the only length that we need as far as the string. And with it, at the very end, we're going to take our paper clip, and that's going to serve as the weight. So what I'm going to do right here is grab one of my paper clips, and add it to the end of my string. And you can tie it, you can loop it. Just allow that paper clip to be essentially your weight at the bottom. And we're going to put that in the middle of our cup right here, just like that. And then you're going to use your pencil, is going to be what's going to go in the center at the top of the cup. And I did just a little tie here, so I'm going to cut off the extra end that I have on my string. And I'm just creating a little loop around my pencil so it keeps it in the center of the cup and it keeps it in place. And I'll show you what it looks like in just a minute. Okay, so you can see my cup is set up there. I have my pencil, my string's wrapped around. It's going to stay in the middle of the cup the whole time. And you can see also that it's not completely to the ground. That's a key thing. We don't want it touching the actual bottom of the cup. We want it to be floating there just a little bit. So that's all that I need, and I'm going to cut this extra string that I have here because I don't need it. But if you want to create multiple ones, you can do that. You don't need to tie the top on the pencil, but you can if you'd like to. All right, so we're going to take our cup, and I'm going to put this aside. And now we have to get our solution created. Now, this is a part where you're going to want to ask help from an adult because we're going to be using the stove to heat up the water, and you want to ensure that you have adult help as you're working on this part of it. So I'm going to take a small saucepan. I'm going to heat up the top of my stove, and I'm going to get a cup of water. Now, you may need more as far as the solution in order to fill up your cup. It depends on the size of your cup. I'm going to start with 1 cup of water, but you can always double this if you'd like, if you need to create more to rise to the top of your cup. So I'm taking a cup of my water, putting it in here, and it's already on my stove, getting hot right now, so the water is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 cups of sugar. So notice that we have double the amount of sugar that's going to go in this saucepan than we do the water. So double the amount of sugar, and you want to add it slowly. Otherwise, it will not dissolve and you will not have that super saturated solution that you actually want. And I'll turn the camera down so you can actually see my saucepan as I'm putting it in there. There you go. So you see my saucepan. I'm going to slowly add the sugar. And I can see that this first time I add it, you can see that it's still visible. The sugar is still visible within the water. So what we want to do is we want to grab, I'm going to use a whisk, but you can use a simple spoon if you'd like, but the whisk was easily to be found. And I'm just going to stir that up. And once this becomes clear, I'm going to add more of my sugars. But my goal is to have double the amount of sugar for the amount of water that I have. You have to do it slowly, otherwise it will not saturate within the water. I have my heat on high, so you can see my burner is high. I feel like I'm doing a cooking show with you guys right now. I've never done this before. Alright, so if you notice, it looks like there's just water in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add more of my sugar. Okay, so I added another ½ cup of sugar. And this makes it equal parts sugar to water, meaning I have a cup of sugar in here and I have a cup of water in here. All right, and it's nice and clear, so I don't see any sugar pieces in there, so I'm ready to add a little bit more sugar. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to stir it up, and at this point too, if you want to make your experiment have color to it, so if you don't want it to be clear, this is when you can add some of your food coloring. Make sure that you use either the food coloring that we gave you or actual food coloring for humans if you add food coloring, because this is something that you will be able to eat. So I'm going to add some of my red food coloring here. Make it a nice bright red. I'm going to keep stirring. Oh boy. I'm going to turn it down a little bit because as it gets more and more saturated, it's going to quickly want to boil. Alright, and then all of my granules have dissolved, so I'm going to add my last ½ cup of sugar. Okay, so now I have, in the solution, I have 2 cups of sugar and I have 1 cup of water. Alright, so it looks like I have it all dissolved, so that means that I can turn off the heat. And make sure you have an adult help you, and I'm going to move my camera so that you can see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dump it into my mason jar there. Make sure you have an adult help you with this part because you're dealing with very hot water that's almost boiling, and I don't want you to get hurt. So I'm going to very carefully dump it into my mason jar. It doesn't matter if my string's in there at the time. I'm going to try to not make a mess. All right, it worked the first time. Okay. So I have my solution in my mason jar. I'm going to take my string. I'm going to put it down in the center. Let that weight add to it and keep it in the center. And now, as you can see, with my solution, I only have about half full. So I can double the cup of water and 2 cups of sugar to make mine even higher. You probably want to have your solution go all the way to the very top of your string, or as best as you can. Because what you're going to create is you're going to create sugar crystals. And so the next step is where you're going to have to be patient. And so what you're going to do is you're going to set that solution somewhere, making sure that that string's in the very center and that it's not touching the bottom of the cup, and put it somewhere where it's not in the sun, and it won't get disturbed, because if it gets bumped, it will mess up the crystals being able to form. So you want to find areas where maybe your dog can't get it, your other family members won't touch it, and put it off to the side so that it is not in the sun. So you can see the spot that I have it right now. I'm going to move it and make sure that it's a place where my dog won't be able to touch it, as well as there's no sunlight hitting it. And give it a little bit of time, a little bit of patience. You can put a sheet of paper if you want on the top, or a little bit of cling film on the top. It doesn't have to, but if you want to ensure that nothing gets into your sugar crystals, you can do that as well. But give it some time and allow it to form. And please feel free to post some pictures like you've been doing already on what it looks like and what you created, and this is going to be a very good sweet treat for you. So keep up the great work. It's been so nice working with you guys this summer, and I am so very excited to see you here in just 2 weeks' time.